have to bring it here. I don't know what happened.
Welcome, welcome. My name is Deidre Harris Kelly, and I'm one of the co-directors of the Romare Bearden Foundation. And I just want to welcome you all to our program this evening. On behalf of our board and staff and the other co-director, Joanne Bryant-Reed, we want to thank you for taking the time out to come and share and celebrate the life of Nanette Rohan Bearden. A little bit about ourselves and our programs. The foundation is the nonprofit organization dedicated to perpetuating the legacies, both artistic and intellectual, of Romare Bearden. We do this through making his art and life accessible to the public through exhibitions, his archive, library, curriculum, and public programming such as this. Along with the WPI, which is the Wildenstein-Plattner Institute, we launched the project to produce the catalog resume, the ultimate catalog of Bearden's unique works. Many of the images you'll see tonight can be visited on the WPI site for Bearden's digital archive. So we're excited about that project, and so we'll put those links in the box a little later. I do want to just thank our partners, the Harlem One Stop, where you can stream this program there live on their YouTube, as well as our Facebook page. But a little bit about the program we have tonight. It's very exciting. We're going to talk about Nanette Bearden, who many people don't realize was the person who established the foundation in 1990 out of the wish and will of Romare Bearden, her husband. Nanette was born in Staten Island. I'm sure we got some Staten Islanders out there. Please let us know in the chat. We got some back for that. But she was born in 1927 to parents that were immigrants from St. Martin in the Caribbean, the French Caribbean. And she was the second daughter of 8 girls. She was the second daughter in line of 8 girls. And so that makes for a big household. And so with Nanette, when she started the foundation, she had help. She started the foundation with the aid of a lawyer friend, Mr. Perrin. I'd like to just give him a shout out, Gregory Perrin. And she had the help of her sisters. So we'll talk a little bit more, but the most exciting thing is that we have Nanette's sister here. Many of you know Sheila Rohan. She is, big in the art world. She was one of the original DT, Dance Theater of Harlem. Keep using all of these shorthands, but Dance Theater of Harlem. And she worked with Nanette, of course, since she was a young person in dance. And then she also worked with her with the foundation. So we have her, and then Nanette's other sister, Dorothy, was one of the directors, the early directors of the foundation, along with Nanette. And then her older sister, Evelyn, at one point comes in and she works as a bookkeeper. And then that's how it all began. And after Nanette's passing in 1996, the foundation has continued. It's grown, it's gotten smaller, it's gotten larger, and we've done a lot of great things based on that legacy that she started. So Nanette was a dancer, but she was also very instrumental in starting the Chamber Dance Group, which was a group of 8 dancers initially and they specialize in classical ballet, vignettes, and works in progress. And the company's name was officially changed to the Nanette Bearden Contemporary Dance Theater in 1977. And they opened a professional dance school that provided training and scholarships for young and emerging dancers. So Nanette, very much like her husband Romare, was very instrumental in starting institutions. These are institution builders, because she also had the dance company, but then she had a fine arts gallery in St. Martin in the Caribbean before she started the foundation and was working there. So Nanette started out really early in the art world as a model of sense, and began to have connections in the city. And then she went on to do dance. So I just want to show you a couple of images of her as a dancer. I know many of you who have been watching our promotions would have seen some of these wonderful images. Let's see if we can advance and look at a few of the images of Nanette dancing. I'm sorry, as a model. There's another one that I like. Yes, here. So Nanette modeled for the DeVoe modeling agency. And so she was one of the first Black models to do commercial work, really commercial work. And here on the left is, of course, a car for Jaguar. And in the previous slide, you'll see that that was a Lysol advertisement, a print advertisement. And so she was quite the beautiful person inside and outside. And to tell us more about that, I do want to bring Sheila, her youngest sister, in, and Walter Rutledge, who was very instrumental in working with her dance company. So Sheila and Walter, if you want to join, and then I want to give a little bit of your bios. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Walter.
Hello.
Hi, how's it
How are
going?
you?
It's growing great. Thank you for joining us this evening. First off, Sheila Rohan is one of the founding members of Dance Theater of Harlem. Under the direction of Arthur Mitchell, she toured extensively in the United States, Caribbean, and Europe, performing as a soloist in several works, such as Jeffrey Holder's Douglas. Sheila danced the role of Rosa Parks in Gordon Parks' film for television, Martin, the Ballet, and performed in a production of Porgy and Bess, choreographed by Carmen de Lavalla at the Metropolitan Opera House. She also was one of the founders of the Universal Temple of the Arts, which was it's a very unique resource that still exists on Staten Island. Yay! It is a platform for artists of color with a multicultural perspective. Sheila served as their performing arts coordinator, along with the longtime director, Sajda Musaria Ladner. We miss Sajda quite a bit. She just passed away. And the late Maurice Phillips and Andrea Phillips, a prominent Staten Island visual artist. Sheila has worked with the Romare Bearden Foundation since its founding and currently sits on the board of directors. And as a disclosure, everyone knows, this is my Aunt Sheila. Yay, Auntie. All right. Renaissance man Walter Rutledge is a choreographer, playwright, director, teacher, and visual artist who worked and collaborated with world-renowned collage artist Romare Bearden. In 2014, he teamed up with the model and actor Adiwala Adikambo Jr., I'm saying his name wrong, but you have to shout him out when you get on, to create the popular online entertainment publication Out and About New York City Magazine. Rutledge is presently Out and About's editor-in-chief. A dance graduate of Temple University, Walter began his professional career at the Harkness House for Ballet Arts, advancing from scholarship student to company member, to school administrator and company manager of the last touring company. And I just want to say, the biggest thing here is that he was the choreographer in residency in 1983. He became that and artistic director for Nanette's Contemporary Dance Theater. His 7 years of association with the Bearden Company introduced him to the creme de la creme of African-American dance, art, music, and literature. So he's going to tell us more about that. But welcome, Sheila and Walter.
Thank you. Thank you.
To just get us started off, I know you two have been longtime friends and associates and worked together a lot. Just before we get to more conversation, just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, and how and where you intersect with Nanette's story. So Sheila, first you, and then Walter.
Well, right now I'm involved with several projects. The most recent being the 152nd Street Black Ballet Legacy, where 5 former ballerinas from the Dance Theater of Harlem, the originals, and we have put this legacy council together to promote ballet for people of color, and to see what help we can be as time goes on. We want to be a resource. Also, I'm with on the board of the Clark Center NYC, which is promoting the legacy of Clark Center for the Performing Arts, which was like a mecca for dancers back in the 60s, 70s, and more. Yes, we had the best of study of teachers, young choreographers who were trying to work on their works. They needed space, they needed dancers, and we volunteered gladly. Thelma Hill, James Truitt, even Alvin Ailey, though he didn't teach, but he often came to see us. So
that's great. Walter?
Well, along with my first love has always been choreography. The idea of making up dances and working with dancers. And that's really where I started. I started choreographing even before I had formal dance training. And so I was a choreographer first that had to then learn how to dance, which was it's a whole other thing. Since my departure from Nanette, I was there for about 7 years. I left in 1990. I've gone on to teach at a number of colleges, Benedict College. I still teach at the College of Staten Island. I work with the Thelma Hill Performing Arts Center as their basically as their artistic consultant. I go out and I find different emerging dance companies, or I'm the liaison between Thelma Hill and established artists, because they give a series every year where they combine new and emerging with established choreographers, and it's a wonderful thing. I really enjoy that. And in addition to that, I have a group called the Dance of the Village Elders, and they are senior citizens who perform. And one of our most one of the ones that was memorable to me was we did something with Dudley Williams and Loretta Abbott, and that was Dudley's last performance. And to see him on stage, he played the minister who introduced Martin Luther King to the congregation. It was a Black History program. So in addition to working with seniors, and then I also have a myriad of school residencies. So I work really K4 through college, through the seniors. So my ongoing joke is I really teach from the stroller to the walker. So,
That's right. It's true.
Yes, I keep teaching.
Well, talking about supporting young artists, Sheila, tell us a little bit about, how you or how Nanette supported you as a dancer. And then, Walter, when we're done with that, I would be interested to know what Nanette's sort of idea with this dance company was, right? Because it was a lot about support and sort of a bridge company for a lot of dancers. So Sheila, tell us about growing up with Nanette and dance.
Well, Nanette was, I was taking dance on Staten Island at a little storefront studio, tap, ballet, whatever. And it came time for me to get more advanced work. So Nanette would meet me at the Staten Island Ferry on the Manhattan side and take me to classes in Manhattan. I don't know, I guess I was maybe 14 or so.
So she was already married to
13,
Romare
14,
at
yes.
this time.
And we would do that on Saturdays. Yeah. She was leotards and tights, my first pair of point shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted me not just to do ballet, but she wanted me exposed to dance, African, Caribbean, modern dance. So I took other classes besides ballet, though ballet was my main study, my main technique. But she exposed me to not just dance, but art. We would go to museums, we would go to performances throughout the city, whatever we could afford. And that's how she nurtured me and was really a patron of the arts. Mm-hmm. And I want to say in her dance company, it was the same. She loved dance and she loved dancers. And she helped them, if they couldn't pay for class, she would let it go. Maybe you could pay next time. She was that type of person, which of course drove her bookkeepers and her administrators crazy. But that's the type of person she was.
And how did she come to dance? Now, I know that I've read different things that said that she danced professionally. I think, she just was a lover of dance and she took classes, but how much professional exposure did she have?
Well, when we say professional exposure, they were a small group, the New World dancers. Mm-hmm. They were a group of dancers that wherever they could find space to perform, it was that type of thing. They were never like at City Center or any other major dance space. Mm-hmm. They did their work where they could, how they could, Mm-hmm. So that was mainly what her performance experience was.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, Walter, would you say that starting the dance company was not just a vehicle for her own dance, but maybe also to shepherd in dancers, to give them opportunities? Mm-hmm. What was the thinking behind building a dance company?
Well, it's when you mention it, she is Romare's wife, which means she had her own wonderful aesthetic. Mm-hmm. I have to say that. And so I think a lot of what this had to do, along with showcasing new artists, was also preserving dance. Because when you think about it, someone like Tali Beatty, who's been dead now maybe 20 years, is forgotten. They don't do his work anymore. Maybe Ailey will revive Stack Up on Once in a Blue Moon, or maybe somebody will bring out Dallas will do Congo Tango or Mourner's Bench. But basically, he was forgotten. And so what Nanette did by making this company was she put these artists front and center. I mentioned Tally, just to mention him again, there was a period before he did Stack Up, which I think was 1983. He did that piece. Prior to that, he had been basically relegated to the sidelines, all the new up Bill T. Jones and all these new up-and-coming choreographers. And there's this guy, who danced with Catherine Dunham. So basically, he was kind of sidelined by that. And really, that Stack Up was his comeback piece. Brought him to a forefront. And then Nanette did that with a lot of choreographers. I mean, you'd have a program with Nanette where you'd have someone have a new work, maybe they would do a work by a younger choreographer, or Gary. I remember when they did Gary DeLoach's work, and at that time he wasn't even in the Ailey company yet. I mean, basically Nanette gave him room to experiment, and he was on the same program with the Tally, or Lewis Johnson. So I mean, so she had such a wonderful kind of a dance gallery, I would call it. I mean, it was, and she really was a preservationist. I have to say that she did look out for these choreographers' works to keep them alive, and really, like I said, when I said introduced me to the creme de la creme, she did. I mean, through her, I was a ballet snob. I've been on the East Side. And I wasn't even on the West Side. The Harkness house is off Fifth Avenue in 75th Street. So I wasn't even on the Broadway side of things. And then have this lady, take an interest in me and give me keys to the building and the whole bit. I mean, I would and then put up with me because I have a really warped sense of humor. So she had to put up. You're giving the audition, and I'm the guy operating the elevator, bringing people up to the 6th floor. And so I'm listening to them talking about the audition and how, I don't really want to do this. I just want a free class, And there I am, taking the elevator up, listening to all these great conversations, and even chiming in and egging people on. And then I step in the room and say, I'm going to give the audition. It was, it was just, and then I would give the audition for the school, and it would be 100 kids audition. I'd give a scholarship to everybody.
Wow.
What are you doing? What are you doing? I said, well, attrition, we'll have 15 next month. Don't worry. Well, she gave me that much room to be myself. And I watched how she even worked with Romare. I mean, it's funny, Romy was the boss or whatever, but when it came down to haggling with one of the galleries about his work, or there's 2 pictures missing, you didn't play with that. I loved her for that. I have to say that. I really did love her for that.
Yeah, and I think she must have had a comfort with some of these folks who she needed to go to for money or to get dancers, to get spaces and to, do the management. And so Sheila, tell us a little bit about her personality in that sense. I mean, that she's putting herself in this world. I think as a model, she had some connections, but she insisted on being at the table in this way. And I'm just wondering what in her personality can be remembered about these institutions that she started.
Well, she wasn't like an aggressive type of person, not at all. She was mostly quiet, but stern, we'll put it that way. She knew what she wanted, and she wanted you to give it to her.
Oh.
But she was a very nice person. She loved the dancers. She went out of her way for them. Can I say? Yeah.
Walter?
Well, I want to add 2 things on that note. My favorite fundraising story, I think I told you this the other night, Deirdre. My favorite fundraising story about Nanette is she invited me down for dinner. We were going to talk about fundraising. But she didn't really tell me what she was up to. She really didn't. So Romy comes in, and usually when Romy walks into a room, especially in his loft, in his space, he's in control. I mean, he's going to tell you stories. He's going to be the center of the room. So when he came in, Nanette and I were sitting down and we were talking, and Romy started talking, and she said, "Oh, Romy, please, Walter and I are discussing some fundraising." So after about 10 minutes of him not being able to take over the room, he said, listen, the next time Ekstrom sells a painting, I'm going to tell him to give you the proceeds. No more talk about this fundraiser. So she was an excellent fundraiser. I have to give her that. That was, I have to give her that. And Sheila's right. I mean, she was very quiet. I have to say she was very quiet. She had a great sense of humor and she loved to laugh. And she did have a big laugh. I have to give her that. It was good to hear her laugh. Very hearty laugh.
And she'd go to bat for dancers, right? Or
all the time.
Yes.
All the time. I have to say, I mentioned to this again about how I feel about my first two experiences as a professional. First one was Harkness, and I call that, and then the second one was Nanette. And so they were what I call very De Medici moments. I mean, because they allowed me to work. They paid me a living wage. They respect, they would come back and forth. I mean, I could tell they were patrons in the full sense of the word, and that supplying me a studio to work in and dances to work with. My God, when I had to do it myself, I was like, it's like when you hear a baby crying and you say, why are you crying? It was like that. Everything was, she made sure everything, the full effect was there. She was a real artistic director, I have to say that, giving me the room to work like that.
Right. And Sheila, would you say that Nanette was good at rallying people? Like you said, she would say what she wanted and she wanted you to give it to her. And she always seemed to have plenty of people around her that she could get to help her. I know that even with Sajda Ladner, she was her costume person at one point, right? And the same way that all of her sisters involved with the foundation. So she was a real grassroots kind of person.
Oh yes, and she recognized talent. She did. She had an eye for talent and everything. Like you say, Sajda Moussaouir was a costume designer and wardrobe mistress for many years in the dance company. Yeah,
I butchered her name earlier when I was talking about Universal Technology Arts. Her middle name. Oh yes, this is wonderful to see. Tell us, Sheila, this is the Dancer by Romare, and who was the model for that? Is it Judith Jamerson?
I do think so, but I really don't know.
So Walter, you were talking about the kind of support he would give the dance company, Nanette and the dance company, and these are some examples. This is the logo, or became one of the logos for the company. And then on the right, we have the print of piano lesson that was called
This meeting is being recorded.
Homage to Mary Lou. And so the sales for this lithograph went to aid the company. And there's a wonderful connection to Mary Lou Williams here in the piece, but also to Nanette's company. Maybe one of you could tell the story of the evening, the special evening with Mary Lou Williams.
I think Walter should do that.
Well, it was funny because we Peter O'Brien, Father Peter O'Brien, who was her, basically, was he the executive of her estate at that time?
No, he never was the executive. No.
Okay, great. He came in with a lot of music, and for 2 years before we even got ready to choreograph anything, I used a lot of the music from all the periods of her Mary Lou Williams' life, and basically, this was an homage to Mary Lou Williams, and he took her music from the beginning of her music all the way through the end, because she basically worked from 1927 until almost 1980. So she had been through, she has an album which is, I've been through all the periods of jazz. And that's what the work was supposed to do, show the breadth of her work and her genius. And I got the work, I worked at all the music. I had the zonings from the 70s and Nightlife from 1927. That was her first piece of recorded music. And I got to use that, which was wonderful. But there were 6 choreographers on that project. It was Mamalu Parks. I have to tell them in order, so I don't. So you have to. I'm going to say myself next, but that's only because I was next. Mamalu Parks did the basically the social dances of the period, and in the 1920s, the Black Bottom, the Jitterbug, all that. That's what her section was, and I followed from 1927 until World War II, 1945. Diane McIntyre did a wonderful solo on Robin Williams, and it was the her nervous breakdown period, where she actually went through something very traumatic. Then Fred Benjamin did, from when she left after the breakdown, she opened a thrift shop, and she got into religious music, and so Fred Benjamin did all the religious music. Alvin Ailey donated the solo for Mary Lou's Mass that Jameson had performed. In fact, Mr. Jameson came up to the studio to watch Estelle Spurlock, who had been in the Ailey company with her, from that time. I call the golden age of Ailey, the 80s. And we were setting on Estelle. She was our guest artist, and Judy came up and said what a wonderful job I had done setting it and all this kind of stuff. And then Tally Beatty, of course, closed out the evening with a big movement epoch. So it was fabulous. I mean, it was a full evening work.
And this was all live music, right, on stage?
Well, we did it live and recorded. Now, when we did it live, the first time we did it live, Roberta Flack was our guest artist.
Wow.
Andy Kirk, who was 90 years old at the time and was the first person she really played with, was there. Dizzy Gillespie was there. These were all people who were part of the production in one way or another. We did Dizzy Gillespie's rendition of Trumpet, her version called Trumpets in the Wind, which is Blue Skies, that she had done as an arrangement for Dizzy Gillespie. So we had and the music went through bebop, it went through her religious, it went through her modern period. It was a wonderful production. It really was. And they did 100 of those lithographs.
Yes.
Sold for $1,000 each. So it was a wonderful fundraiser for the Nanette's company.
Yes, it's a hot commodity right now, still on the market when you can find them. I want to, talking about artists, I love the way you all will call names out of artists and dancers. And I really think that that's important. If we could go back to that original picture of Nanette and the dancers, and if you could just name a couple of the dancers in the photograph, and then also, this photograph, not this one, the other one. Or I don't know, do you know the dancers here?
Well, the only one I know in here besides Nanette would be, I think that's Raymond Sawyer. Yeah.
But the other dance picture of the more mature company, the next one. Yes.
Yes. Well, this, I want to point out that the woman and man bending over, the woman is April Berry, and then that's Gary DeLoach. This was before they joined the Ailey company.
And April Berry, didn't she do something with the Romare Bearden Centennial celebration down in North Carolina?
Well, she didn't perform, but I think maybe the company that she was with at that time, that she was directing, did a performance.
Okay. All right.
But she didn't dance herself. And this other painting here, the very distinct person in white there, that's Bruce Hawkins.
Yes, Bruce.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at that time, and I see Stanley Harrison. That time,
isn't that Rick Odom in the middle?
Is who?
Is that Rick Odom?
Odom, yes, I'm sorry. Rick was the choreographer and artistic director at that time.
Okay.
Rick Odom. He's now working in Paris. Yeah. But these dancers that you see there were some of the really finest dancers in New York in that contemporary jazz modern field.
Right.
And they would go from sometimes being 2 and 3 companies at once.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and run for performance to performance, but they were really all very great dancers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a company like Nanette's was, it was, I called it a bridge company, but I don't know what you call it in the dance world.
Yeah.
But it's something that's necessary for dancers so that they have work. It's like actors.
Yes.
They need to work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When dancers came in town from wherever, LA or whatnot, they came to her studio and she would give them a job. Not much money, a little stipend here and there, but they got performance experience and they got to work with very good choreographers. So they were learning the craft.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
that's who she was.
Yeah. And she must have done all of her own bookings, because I remember seeing her, Nanette, I remember seeing a couple of her appointment books, and they were full of just all of the activity. Maybe she wasn't doing the bookings, but it was like, pay this one, do that, pick up costumes, do this, do that. And sometimes that would be a day while she was in St. Martin. And I'm like, how was she juggling all of that? She didn't have assistants, right? Like just.
Well, she did. She had Bess Pruitt.
Right.
Who was with her at that time, who did her bookings and like a company manager almost.
Right.
Yeah. But Nanette did most of that work herself. She can never afford to pay anybody really to do things. But as time went on, she did get help. She did get administrative help here and there, but she handled a lot of things herself.
Right. I'm sorry, Walter, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry to kind of, a conversation. When I first started working with her, in addition to taking care of what Romy needed, which was a full-time job in itself, she she was in charge of the costumes, paying people, this and that, and we would end up at a performance. This is before I got there, and Nanette had run so many places, she forgot the music. So they'd be at the theater. Waiting for the tech to start, and the company was already 3 hours late.
Oh no!
I mean, yes. If I'm wrong, Sheila, or exaggerating, tell me.
No, I'm not.
And they just stand there locked out, waiting for her to show up, and then she'd come in, and she'd have to go all the way back downtown to get the music, or she forgot costumes.
Right.
And so one of the first things I did when I got there, I reminded her that she was Mrs. Romare Bearden, and that we had people who could really do some of that running for her.
Right.
So after that, she never touched a costume or a tape again. Because it just didn't make any sense. I mean, she's literally downtown taking care of something, and then she's running back over here getting tapes, and then she's running over to the theater. Then something else happens. She's got to go over here. I mean, so it was just better to then just. I don't want to say compartmentalize her, but in a way, yes, to give her, don't do this, please don't do that, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, she jumped in when it came to starting the foundation. I read something where she was saying, we really need to do this. This is something that Romare really wanted, and I'm going to do it. And she didn't have experience in the art world, but she had been there. Next to him, and so she knew a lot of the players, but it was tough going, initially when he first passed away. And so, but she pulled it together, and she got the people who she wanted to get done what she wanted them to do. And here we are 32 years later, still sort of taking care of Romare's work, taking care of both of their legacies the best that we can. I do want to show a couple of the pictures of some of the work that Nanette did after Romare passed. There were several murals in production. And so Nanette was the person who would need to show up at these events and If we can have the next one, there's a couple. There's one, this is her in the gallery down in St. Martin. And along with her sister Dorothy Dow, when we went down there, the artist talked so fondly about Dorothy. She just passed away in 2021. And Nanette and that gallery was a saving grace to many of the artists down there. And so she'll be remembered for that. And then there's another photo here. That's just, you know, the work that we've been trying to continue to do. Lots of Nanette's family still involved, but along the way, we've had some wonderful professionals come in and help us. You know, Joanne is there. She's been with the foundation for a long time. The archivist, we got a grant to organize our papers. And on the top in the center, Talal El-Bushi, who is a nephew of Nanette's and also the chairman of the board. And I see a picture, I see Ali Tash Kabedi, who's in there, who's a good friend and a California galleryist. So everybody, I mean, this is the spirit and legacy of this foundation. I mean, we've had some wonderful directors work with us. Grace Stanislaus, I think she might even be on the call now. And we had we had a year with, oh, I just forgot her name. I'll remember it in a second. But yeah, so we've just continued to plow along. Can I see the next picture? Yes, this is the one that comes from our archive. And again, I'll mention that the Wildenstein-Plattner Institute is hosting our digital archives, or Romare's digital archives. And this is a wonderful thing from the archives, and maybe you can't see it, but in the left, on the left corner, bottom corner, is an inscription from Nanette that says, Nanette for Romare. And this is a booklet that was produced for this mural. And you see the full mural on the left. It's called Before Dawn. And it's in the library of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Library, Public Library. And so this was something that was in the works, and Nanette got that finished. And then the next one, she didn't physically finish, but she completed it. You completed the process with them. And then this is down at the BMCC, the Borough of Manhattan Community College. Beautiful mural that I saw recently because we are, again, hosting some digital assets on the Wildenstein-Plattner Institute's Romare Bearden Digital Archive. I'm trying to say the whole thing each time because this is a wonderful, wonderful resource that I want everybody to check out when they can. We'll put the links in the chat. And so on that note, I just wanted to see if we could open up to some questions from the audience. I can't read the chat as quickly. Yeah, we have a lot of people on here. And we have, you know, people thanking us for the insights to the chamber. Well, one question someone had was the change from the chamber dance group to the Nanette Bearden Contemporary Dance Theater, not dance company, dance theater.
Right. Yeah.
What is the thinking with that name?
Because she didn't want to, we weren't doing classical works, in other words, classical ballet or classical modern. She did want a dance theater where we can incorporate all genres of dance, really. That's what that was, dance theater. And she loved dance theater pieces, dances that told stories. Yeah.
And that reminds me, can we go back to the photograph with Sheila and the Dance Theater of Harlem? Yes, I just want to make sure that we give a shout out to the folks in these pictures.
Oh, yeah.
But Sheila is right in the center behind Arthur Mitchell on the right side of Arthur Mitchell there, the very young Sheila Rohan. And we have the Virginia Johnson is in this picture.
No, Virginia is, yes. She's in the back. You see that afro in the back there?
Right.
I think so, yeah.
Many people may recognize Virginia Johnson's name. She was one of the prima ballerinas, and then she recently, is it public notice that she's stepping down, retiring?
Yes, it is.
I wasn't sure.
Artistic director
of Dance Theater Harlem. Yes. And on the right, some of the dancers that were part of the company initially. And Sheila, say too a little bit about what the 152nd Street Black Ballerinas hope to achieve in terms of, I don't know, scholarships or young people.
We got together. Well, we've been together for many years. It's what we call our sisterhood, the five of us. And we want to promote the equality in Black dance, in dance, period. You see the campaign that's going on now across the United States to not just have a token dancer here and there, but to fairly give our dancers a chance. You see, to show what they can do, because there are many dancers who are just as fine in the classical ballet as any dancers out here, but they don't get a chance, or if they do, you know, they're behind the scenes or apprentice or second company. But so this is we want to hope when we get ourselves together and get some funding, we want to help the smaller companies, the smaller schools with scholarships, even to buy point shoes, because point shoes can run you in some places almost $100 a pair.
Wow.
You see, so it's that's the kind of work we do, and also to be a resource, to have dancers who are transitioning out of their career and they don't know what to do with themselves. What am I going to do next? How am I going to do it? So we hope to be able to give this kind of mentoring and also a resource in where to go to. Right. You know, where, how can we help you, and where should you go?
That's a great carry on of that legacy. I don't know if you consider yourself perpetuating that kind of legacy as Nanette. You've been involved with a lot of different organizations, older dancers, and so you're doing that good work. And the Clark Center, I mean, they're going strong. I mean, you know, their programs, we were doing some virtual programs with them throughout the pandemic. And Walter, what would you say, you know, some of the legacy ideas of Nanette that maybe you still carry with you in your teaching today, or your choreography work, or
well, just in general, you know, what a lot of what she did created almost a dance laboratory, because she gave young people a chance to experiment. There's a young man now, Freddie, I forget his last name, who would come to me, but he was one of my students that I taught when I was with Nanette, and gave him an opportunity to do a little choreography. Now he has his own dance company. He's choreographing. He lives in Tampa. And so what she did was she did allow young artists to emerge and to find themselves. Something that Sheila said earlier, which is really true. A lot of times dancers would come to New York. They had a certain level of training, but they didn't have that polish, or they weren't trained extensively enough. If you started to learn the choreography, this is a difference learning dance to choreography, but still, in one of the works is a double tour. They learned how to do double tours. Another work has at least 2 pirouettes. They learned how to pull up and get on their legs to do those. And so she did provide opportunities for a lot of people, and I still do that. I think that's an important thing, to not only give young people an opportunity, but to look around and say, you know, that person's been doing this for 50 years. We need to honor them. We need to bring them to the forefront. And that's a lot of what I get to do with Thelma Hill Performing Arts Center. We get to showcase young artists and emerging artists and established artists. So I think that was a great part of her legacy. And then one thing that Sheila did say, and it's true, she always looked out for the dancers. I mean, if they didn't have, somebody hadn't eaten, she'd slip them a couple of dollars. If they didn't have, they couldn't afford the ballet slippers. They look in the back, take them a pair of costumes.
Car fare.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I mean, so yeah, and she was a wonderful person. I mean, really a wonderful person.
Right.
Well, one thing I do want to add back when we talk about, and I hope I hope I'm not going on, but we would sit down sometimes and we plan things out, and she'd bring in a European dance magazine and say, "Look at this costume." I did something with where I had I think 15 people on stage, and they all had on skirts. So, and they were full circle skirts, over circles. So we figured it out that even though I wanted crepe de chine, we had to settle on white muslin. But at least we were able to give the illusion, you know, the whole idea and pull it off. And she was always like that. She was the one who brought the magazine and said, "Look at all these skirts." Then we figured out how many skirts we'd need with Sajda came in and how much that would cost and what material would work best. So she was involved in every aspect of it, and that's what's helped me, I think, have the courage to do so many things. You know,
right. And one of the things you did was you worked for the Romare Bearden Foundation. Well, this is why I said we have to have Walter back, because he also worked directly with Romare, who got himself involved in many dance productions, working with Diane McIntyre and Ailey, and you know, there's a dance that he produced and did the collage works for that was shown recently in Art Basel down in Miami. And it was called the Bayou Fever. And it was never produced, but it was something that he was thinking of, you know, writing the ballet. And I think it was written with someone else whose name I can't remember. Oh, Billy Allen Henderson.
Billy Allen, yeah. Writing
it together, and he did the artwork, which is beautiful. And the piece with Diane McIntyre was featured in the documentary on Bearden Plays Bearden by Nelson Breen. And we have a clip, perfectly cute.
Wow.
We're seeing just a short little clip of Nanette talking with Bearden about his work. So let's watch that.
We first visited
and then we saw how beautiful it was.
St. Martin's in 1966.
And we said,
and then I came back again on a trip with my mother and sister in 1969. And after that time, we decided that we would build a home here in St. Martin's. This reminds me of a series of paintings that you've done on the Caribbean for your 1976 show at the Courtier-Strum.
Well, the sea was in all of them.
Yes.
I guess must be my sign, a sea sign, a water sign.
No, I think it was the influence and the whole ambiance of the Caribbean, of this island that.
Yes, how the blue.
Influenced
look
you.
Over there, how the blue going towards St. Bart. and the different qualities of blue, the different qualities. I like that color combination very much. You see the blue and the green. You notice how often I use that?
Yes.
And the white? Yes, that's true. I just love this island.
So you're just happy.
That's
in this
right.
particular landscape.
Ambience. Yeah.
Ambience.
Love that. Love that. Love that. All right. Well, Walter and Sheila, do you have any questions for each other before we I see we have some activity in the chat, but go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a question for each other.
No, I just wanted to point out that Walter and I were dancing partners for a few years.
Oh,
yes. And he taught me a lot about partnering. He's an excellent partner.
Oh.
So, and he helped me with my point work. And
Sheila, since you mentioned that, I was going to tell this story, but I didn't. And if you preface it, the first time we danced together was supposed to be our last time dancing together.
What?
Yep. We did Room 8A.
Oh, yeah.
We've been practicing it, and we got it together. And right about an hour before the show, we were on stage, and you looked over. We were sitting on the stage on the Marley, and you said, "This is my last performance.
Oh.
After this, I'm retiring."
Oh.
I said, "Well, then let's take it out with a bang. Let's have some fun." And so we got on stage, and I just meant it just going out and releasing and having fun. So we got on stage, and the first real trick is it's a couple, but the first real trick is at the end of the section, just a menage of turns, and usually, so we went to do the turns, and we set up all of it. Went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arabesques. And when the performance was over, she said, "My God, I've never done 6 arabesques on stage before."
6 turns, you mean? Turns.
That's pirouettes.
Right.
Oh, it was great. And so we danced together for the rest of the 7 years I danced with Nanette, and for maybe another 10 after that. When
did we have you guys on film dancing together?
Oh.
No.
What I had, I put in the library, in the Jerome Robbins Lincoln Center library.
Yes, please talk about that, Sheila. Putting her archives there.
Yes, The Nanette, all of the dance company, the films, the videos are in the archives at Lincoln Center. Yeah.
Yes. Somewhat organized. I went there to do some research. I didn't look at any of the moving images, but they do have a ton of photographs and brochures of play programs from dances, and it's beautiful. They even have, some of the original meetings and things that happened to bring the dance company together. But 2 things. One, we have a question about unfinished works, how many unfinished works did Nanette and others helped complete? I'm not sure if that can be answered. But also, can you please talk about On the Block and how that was, you brought that forward. But are there unfinished works that choreographers got to complete, Walter, that you completed maybe?
We had basically those works, usually when they hired someone, they completed the task. And for this, when I left, I left in 1990, and I left right after a performance. That was my last name. It was June of 1990. We finished our season. What I saw more with works that were revivals, which was really important. Like, for instance, going back on the film and pulling out Elbert Watson doing Mourner's Bench, or to pull out a ballet by Ray Lamb, another choreographer that has been forgotten. Something about choreography. After about 5 or 6 years, people forget you. Unless you have an institution like an Ailey company behind you, or a Graham company, or Ramon. You're forgotten. And Nanette really preserved. I keep saying preserve, but she did. She was really a preservationist, among other things.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole reason for the foundation.
If you mentioned On the Block, that was really a labor of love for me. The way that whole thing was put together. I mean, talking about I would come in and I would choreograph and hum tunes, set the music, set the choreography that way. And the musicologist would be there with us, the guy who was composing it. And then he would take video footage that I gave him home and set the music to the choreography, as opposed to the other way around, which usually happens where you find music and you make your idea fit that piece of music. This way, it was totally tailor-made for my movement, which is, my joke is, it was like me saying, Peter, I need Lotta. This is Swan Lake. And it was like that. And which
Walter,
is
Walter, before you continue, tell a little bit about the story behind the dance.
Okay, the story itself was episodic. It was 5 different stories being told in non-sequential order. And so that's how I designed it, because it was going to be a 70-minute work without an intermission. And if you're going to hold people in a seat for that long, it has to keep moving. That feeling came from the collage, though, from the work itself. I got to go over to the Met and sit with the work a couple of times before they actually put it up. And when you sit with it for a while, somebody peeks out from a window. What it is, folks, if you don't know, it's a block in Harlem. It's 133rd Street, 133rd and 132nd Street on Lenox Avenue. Now, most of that is gone now. The funeral home is gone. The liquor store on the corner is gone. So it doesn't have the same feel that it did when I watched it, because the funeral home had a sign, "We'll pick you up anytime, any place." And so it was an experience. I asked him, "Can I come up in there and take a look around?" He said no. But it was the kind of thing where you could see like somebody peer out of a window, or someone was in a doorway and they revealed themselves, So a lot of that came from the painting itself. And then when you talk about Bearden on Bearden, he describes the block and talks about how he rearranged the buildings so that they made a musical feel with the tops of the building. And so that was a labor of love. And then to design something again that we were going to use intergenerational cast, we had Loretta Abbott was in it. Hope Clark at one point was in it. Diane McIntyre was in it. Dudley Williams was in it. Bruce, what was Bruce's last name? Bruce Heath was in it. Yes. So we had dancers who had danced in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Then we had a core group of younger dancers. Our youngest cast member was 14. But then we had the regular dancers. But what the dancers learned from people like Dudley and Loretta and Hope was how you build a character. I asked Hope, and I were talking about it. She said, "Well, what was she like?" Hope, what was she like? And so I started to tell her, and none of that was going to go into the character. And then she said, "Well, where does she work?" And she said, "I said she's a waitress." She said, "Oh," and then next time Hope did it, it changed the whole way she walked.
Right.
Someone was standing her feet all day. So you learn.
That's the theater part of the Nanette.
That's
right.
Character. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just want to say, so that ballet or that dance was brought into the contemporary celebration during 2004 when we did a citywide celebration.
Yes.
And Grace Stanislaus, Lorna Harris, Pam Ford, we were all organizing many of the organizations throughout the city to celebrate Bearden on the occasion of his retrospective from the National Gallery coming to the Whitney Museum. And we just blew it out. Every institution across the city had some jazz show or some art-related exhibition. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And that dance, those productions were a highlight. That, and when you went to the Children's Museum.
Oh, yes.
And you played for them and you performed for them. That was wonderful. Oh my gosh, we are out of time, I think.
Yes.
One last thing. Sheila, I want to ask you, because you just mentioned it. Nanette and Romy had a wonderful affinity for jazz, didn't they? Jazz music.
Oh, yes. both of them. It wasn't like Romy introduced her or the other. They both had. And I know when they were courting, they used to hang out at the Village, at whatever, and in Harlem at Jazz. Yes.
But they met at a West Indian dance. Is that right? A fundraiser, right? That's what I read.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, I just want to say thank you so much, both of you. We have so many people in the chat. Gail Griffith, who's one of the dance theater,
the Legacy group.
Legacy group. We have Nelson Breen.
Yes.
And we have Kay Shaw, who's a friend of mine, who is learning so much about Nanette. And this is the thing, is bringing her alive here, not just knowing that she was, you know, at Romare's side, but that she was a real, you know, part of his development as an artist. I remember as a kid, you know, sometimes Romare would be there and he would be entertaining guests. And he would call Nan from whatever room she was in. Nan, what's the title of this? What is this? She'd come out and she'd say, oh, that one's so-and-so, you know? And I just thought they were so sweet together, and such, they would be like the contemporary power couple. And so I really want to celebrate her more. Her birthday was on January 20th. She would have been 96 years old. And I noticed that that's a switch because she died when she was 69 years old. Just a numbers game, but lots of fans on here. So I just want you to know, we'll read the chat later. We'll make it available to you all so you can see some of the folks that have tuned in to hear, and many of them are saying great stories. So they loved hearing the stories. So we're going to have Walter come back, because I wanted him to talk about some of the work that he did with Romare in dance, because I think it's really, really interesting. Ramona Candy, of course, with the Clark Center, and a beautiful artist in her own right. So I'm gonna get off because they're gonna kick us off in a bit. And you have your nephew on Sheila.
Idris. I saw that, yeah.
So I just want to say thank you again for joining us, and wonderful stories. We're going to get you guys in to do some oral histories for us as part of the in part of the oral history project that we do. And also I want to thank Nadal Canary for producing our show. He's the one behind giving us the best shots and making us all look good. And Ron and Joanne of the Bearden Foundation, who does the backstage for us, so that we can do our pirouettes, or so that you can do your pirouettes. I'm just turning you, and then you do your pirouettes. So I just want to thank you and everyone who tuned in. A big thank you to Harlem One Stop that hosts us, and also will be showing the piece recording on their YouTube page, where you can see all of our programs that we've been doing virtually. And we just thank you all for joining us. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.